everyone. Welcome to the Globe Girl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, and thank you for joining. Hope everyone is doing well. I hope you all are having a great week. Well, today I'm excited to have Leah McQuade join me. Leah is a feminine freedom coach and an embodiment expert. Leah helps women find freedom from the inside out. She's also a certified master coach, yoga teacher, and a wow woman. Leah is passionate about helping professional women leaders address the root cause of burnout, stress, and overwhelm so that they can find the freedom to live and lead with more joy, fulfillment, and pleasure. So stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back with Leah. Welcome back to the Globe Girl podcast. Thank you all for joining. I am now joined by Leah. So welcome, Leah, to the Globe Girl podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we get into our conversation, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Leah McQuade. I'm a master life coach, feminine freedom coach, a intuitive healer, breathwork facilitator, and yoga teacher. So I love helping women step fully into their sovereignty and their power and unblock and clear the things that might be in the way of them fully expressing who they are in the world. So that's what I do. I have a one-on-one coaching program. I am moving towards a group coaching program, and I do a lot of intuitive healing work out of my home here in Austin, Texas.
Awesome. All right. Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure it's hot there in Austin, just like it's hot here in Georgia.
Yes, it is. We actually had some rain this week, which I was like doing a rain dance. My husband and I were doing a rain dance on our patio because it's been so dry and it cooled things off a little bit. So instead of like 105, it's now like 95. So that's cool for us this time of year.
Well, that is great because we've been getting a lot of those afternoon, those pop-up showers, but then when they pop up, they're like torrential rains for about 20 minutes and then they go away. And I will have to say here in Atlanta where I am, we are experiencing a little cool streak here over the last few days. It's been about 68 at night. So that's been great. And so it hasn't been so deathly hot like usual. And I think during the day, we've got I think a few more days of it where it's going to be in the 80s, which is yes, thank you. But then I think we're going to shoot back up to, summer's going to be hey, I'm still here. So I know it's that weird time of the year because when you get into August and you get closer to September, you really want, I don't know about you, but I really want fall and I want fall weather. So it's oh man, you start to just wish it. So you just start doing things I'll just
the pumpkins.
Yeah, right. I'm I'll just start drinking pumpkin. I'll just start eating pumpkin, and maybe that'll make it get cooler a little bit faster.
I love that. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's dive into our discussion today. And we are going to be talking a lot about embodiment. So let's start with what is embodiment for anyone out there who may not know.
Yeah, embodiment is really about walking your talk, and it's about living from the inside out. And so many of us have so many things that we want to do in our lives. We have these lives, these dreams that we have. And to really make those dreams reality, we have to start going inward and start looking at what are the blocks and where are we stuck in our lives that are preventing us from moving forward in living the dream life that we want. And embodiment is really about that, starting to go inward and living from full integrity and authenticity. And instead of all of the external things that we're told to do, right? It's not about the external. It's really about excavating the internal. And that's my definition. That's what I think embodiment is, living from the inside out.
I like that. And, why is that so important?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Embodiment is to me the most important thing that we can start including in our lives. Embodiment, this idea of slowing down, listening to our thoughts, listening to what our body's telling us, listening to our intuition, listening to our feelings. All of that happens in the body. So when we're embodied, we can begin to live from a deeper place. We begin to create a relationship with ourselves that is deeper. It's a deeper relationship with ourselves. We begin to understand ourselves better. And in my mind, understanding who we are is the purpose to being a human being. That's what spirituality, that's what we're here on the planet to do, is understand ourselves at a deeper level. And in that, we begin to live the life that we were designed to live. We begin to live our soul purpose. We begin to live in that soul purpose and also start to make our dreams reality.
Mm-hmm. I really like that, because I think back to maybe a few years ago now when I first launched Glow Up Gyrl. And I had, would always explain to people that I was like, it's not about like what everyone thinks the glow up is. It's like, oh, this person, they used to look this way, now they look like this, or they've just glowed up, and I'm like, it's really about that internal glow up. Because like who you are internally on the inside, loving yourself, knowing who you are, feeling very confident from that, like that's going to exude like out externally. But it all really starts on the inside and like who you are as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really about staying curious. Like, I love that you're like, who are you as a person? That's a really beautiful place to start. Like, just staying curious about your feelings, staying curious about what it is you truly desire, staying curious about the sensations in the body, staying curious, always that going just a layer deeper in the questioning around who am I, right? It's like just asking those questions and staying curious. So I love that you asked that, like, who am I? Yeah, ask that question. Who am I?
Yeah. And I think it's that is so important. And so my next question goes into from the female perspective. So why is it so important for we as women, to understand embodiment and to embrace it?
Because when women are embodied fully, we step into our power. We step into our sovereignty. So it's when we come out of our body and start to get validation from the outside, start to think that it matters what the outside world thinks of us, is when we lose that embodiment, when we lose ourselves. And when we lose ourselves, we lose our power. Yes. So who we are as women is different than who we are, who the masculine world is, right? So that's the thing about the masculine and feminine dynamics, right? It's like we live in a very masculine world. It's a patriarch. It is dominated by men. Let's just be real. It is still, right? And in that masculine sort of society that we live in, right, we've had to conform to that. Like, we've had to wear the pantsuits and act like the men to get where we are today, right? And thank the activists and the feminists and the women who got us where we are today, right? We wouldn't be voting right now if it wasn't for those women, right? And I think the new feminism movement is around women actually valuing what we have to offer as women, not jumping into the masculine way of being, right? Even though society tells us that's how we should be, right? We should all be hustling and doing all the things, and that's very masculine. And yes, we do need to create that action for things to happen. And for us women, it's about collaboration. It's about nurturing. It's about slowing down and finding our rhythm in life. It's about intuition. It's about trust. And that's inherently what's in our souls as women. And so going into feminine embodiment, beginning to really understand how magical we are, like life doesn't happen on this planet without us. Like that's amazing. We bleed every month and we don't die. Like that's amazing. Like our bodies, right? Our bodies are beautiful and amazing. And we've kind of gotten away from that, how magical we are as women. And I think that that's the feminine embodiment that is the reason why it's so powerful well, because when we're fully embodied, we can listen to the wisdom of our bodies, right? And we can tap into that magic that we are.
Yes. Okay. So a lot of things you said like resonated, but first of all, I love magic. I'm always like, tap into your magic, who you are, your strengths, like that is your magic. So that I love that. Also, I think that, gosh, you said a lot of things that like were so important, but I think that, like you said, that sort of coming back to like who we are as a women, and utilizing sort of those strengths and those skills, especially like in this world and in this place. So like, I'll just use an example of like being in a workplace, in a corporate workplace, right? And like you said, so many people have, in years past, have felt like I have to be this way in order to move up. I have to act like the men. I have to be this type of personality in order to get ahead. But there is something in the power of just being a woman and being, utilizing those skills and those soft skills that we bring to the table, like empathy and our ability to like you said, to collaborate and to get people using our influence to be able to get on board. And I think in this part of like my career, because I do, for those who don't know, I am a working entrepreneur. So I do have a full-time job during the day, but it's like, finally, when that like shifted, you realize like, that's what I've always done is I've looked on the inside for like the way that I lead people, the way I bring people together. And it's always seemed very different from like what other people were doing, because everybody else was just utilizing like that corporate book of influence 101. And those aren't the things that get people excited. Those aren't the things people, when you operate in that way, people feel afraid, or they feel like, oh my gosh, like I have to do these things or I'm going to get in trouble. They don't feel that like spirit of collaboration. They don't feel like, oh, this person I can trust. And if I can't get to something today, this person's not going to be empathetic about like the fact that life, we have to give ourselves grace. Life is happening. Things are happening all the time that we can't control. And especially in this time that we're in now. So I really love that, going back to who we are as women, and like you said, intuition. Yes. All day. Yes, yes, yes. Because it never lies. Like, listen to it. I always go with like my gut and what came to me first, because 9 out of 10 times, that is the way that I'm supposed to go.
Yes, yeah. And often there's what I call like the levels of living that kind of accumulate within our bodies that prevent us from tapping into that intuition. So a large part of the work that I do is stripping away whatever's in the way of you fully seeing your power, fully seeing your intuition, fully hearing your intuition, right? Because we all have it. And there's just things in the way, sometimes the critical mind, for example, the judging mind, the over-functioning mind, right? Whatever it is, the people-pleasing mind. There's so many things. And so it's really the work that I do is excavating those things that are inside the body that might be clouding your ability to see your sovereignty, to see your intuition, to hear that intuition deeper, and start living from that place of integrity. Because there's levels of that just kind of stack, whether it's stress, right, or whether it's something deeper like a trauma from the past, or whether it's a relationship that you haven't quite overcome yet. There's things, and that's part of the work that we do together, is let's get those things out of the way, because who you are inside is perfect, whole, and complete.
Yes. And so are those like judging and people pleasing, are those some of the barriers to embodiment for women?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very individual, right? Because we all have our own life path that we've walked in, our own challenges. And so absolutely the inner critic, the inner judge, the things that we tell ourselves that may not be negative, the parts of us that say we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not smart enough, the traumas, oftentimes there's traumas from our past. I say often, but I think living in the human body, we don't escape that. I think, and there's more and more research coming out around how trauma is stored in the body. Another reason why embodiment is so important, to really heal from that, we have to go inward. Of course, with a practitioner who's informed about trauma and knows how to titrate and move in that process slowly. And then there's the people pleaser, right? There's the overfunctioner, there's the overachiever. There's a lot of those are a lot of those are dictated to us by society too. So then you've got the cultural conditioning around women, right? Women are supposed to be a certain way, and so there's a lot here. But what I really want to inspire your listeners is that we're not trying to go from here to here. We're not trying to go from point A to point Z, right, in one jump, because that can feel really overwhelming, but there is a way to go from where you're at, wherever you're at, in just that next right step, right? And it's one tiny step. And I think sometimes we can get paralyzed because we think we have to go, here we are in A, and we want to get all the way to Z, and we don't know how to get there. And so we get overwhelmed, and that keeps us in the spiral, in the loop, and keeps us doing the same things, because it's that overwhelmed feeling like, oh, I'm never going to get there. And the important thing to remember is that just little steps on the path is going to get you to where you eventually want to go, right? Like little steps in the right direction. And it's every day, but that little step might be 5 minutes of meditation a day, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be, I joke about this all the time. It doesn't have to be sitting in a cave in India for 8 hours a day meditating. We're not trying to be monks here, right? But it's like just adding a little bit every day, something that really nourishes you from the inside out. And you'll know it nourishes you by the way you feel after you've done it, right? And so it's dropping in little by little and just slowly opening up that onion, peeling that onion back. And the beautiful thing is it doesn't have to be alone. You don't have to be alone in this process. There's lots of support out there, but women supporting women in really beautiful ways. So you're never alone.
Yeah. Okay. So again, Leah, you're dropping lots of nuggets. lots of great nuggets. I mean, but you're so right that there are all these layers and all these external and internal things that can block and stop us from that growth, or from trusting ourselves. You said, there's that inner critic, the inner critic telling you you're not good enough, you're not smart, you're not pretty, you're not all those things. And then you just have like real world people in real world that we unfortunately live in a society where people aren't always so nice and kind to each other. And so, you've got those types of barriers as well. But I do love the fact of, 5 minutes, you breaking it down to like something that's 5 minutes a day, because I do think people get overwhelmed when they think, like this is where my starting point is, and this is where I like to be. And we just, instant gratification world that we live in, we want it like right now or we want it tomorrow, and it doesn't happen that way. Like you have to be willing to put in, it's an investment in you. So you have to be willing to invest in yourself to see the change. Like I think about, like, I've been now in therapy since 2019. I was having a conversation with my therapist last week where she was just like, wow, like the growth, man. She's like where you were or what you might have said about this like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago is so different. And I'm like, it just starts to happen. It starts to happen. You start to change. But I think it all goes back to what you said earlier. What we talked about is being curious. Like the we as people, like I always tell people, I'm like, you have to keep learning. Like you should always be learning. When you're not learning, then you're not evolving. And if you're not doing that, then you shouldn't be here. I mean, it's like I'm always wondering, how can I be a better version of myself? How can I, like, just get deeper to figure out, like, well, I keep doing this thing. Instead of like saying that somebody keeps doing it to me, like, I'm at a place to where I'm like, well, I keep doing this thing because I was doing this thing. I'll give you a story. I was doing this thing with my husband where I kept doing this thing and we kept ending up in the same place, having the same disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
And then at first, it was very much like me being like, well, it's just him. Like, it's just him. You're not listening to me, blah, blah, blah. But then one day, like I took a step back and really like thought about it. And I was like, maybe I should come to the discussion different. Maybe I shouldn't come with the same, with that same attitude and ready to fight. Maybe I should come with like, okay, let me just listen. Let me just try to understand from his viewpoint what he's saying and actually listen to him and not be ready to fight back with a defense. And so it's like some things are just changing our mindsets and how we approach something, and you will definitely get a different result. But it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many nuggets in there too. So many nuggets. Yeah, and I heard the work. Yeah, it is work, but it's how we evolve as humans. It's how we upgrade our consciousness and up level our consciousness. And so it's important to look at ourselves. And I heard in there, always be moving forward and always be curious. And I yes, and remember that there's seasons. So I think sometimes for some of us, we can, like me, I tend to be more of the overachiever type. So yep, raise my hand. Yep. So I think sometimes it's nice to take a step back and take a season where you integrate what you've learned, and you don't always have to push the starting line back, because that's what the overachiever is, right? You cross the finish line, and then it's like, instead of
Yeah.
celebrating what you've done,
You don't celebrate. No, you don't celebrate. You're like thinking about what's the next thing I can do. And that will lead to burnout. Just let me tell you.
Yes.
I've been there.
Me too. Exactly. Yeah. So for those of us who are on that spectrum, also knowing that it's okay to pause from all of the work. Mm-hmm. So it depends on where people are on their journey.
Yeah.
It definitely depends on where people are.
And I love that you pointed out the seasons, because like I am in a season of like grace and a season of rest, because I am a working entrepreneur. I was always working on the weekends. I was always like working, like all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And I was like not giving myself any time to like rest and get ready for a new week. And then like during the week I was working my job, and then I was going straight into Glow Up Girl stuff. And I just saw like I was getting in this place where I was like, I can't do this. This is not sustainable. And
Yep.
so I was able to take a step back. Like I took a step back at like all the things and said, you know what? If I'm not like I used to release my podcast on Tuesdays, which really meant the weekend was real heavy, like with things and getting stuff done. And then I said, I mean, what happened if I decided to move it to Thursday? And so I moved it to Thursday and I was like, the world didn't stop. Nobody sent me an email and said, oh my God, you're not releasing on Tuesday. Nobody said anything. And then like what's, like doing stuff for like social media, like I was always like, I gotta have like this number of posts like every week. And then I just like I was like, I mean, you know what? Like social media, the algorithms, all that stuff's so crazy. I mean, it's like people might not even see it for like 5 days anyway. So
Mhm.
why am I going to like essentially like kill myself to get something done? And so now, I give myself like, yes, I'm recording today. It's Saturday, but I've got 2 recordings and then I get to like chill the rest of the day, and I may do something tomorrow, a little bit tomorrow, but not all day. But then I'm also like during the week, I'm like back to reading books. I'm back to doing the things that like I find like pleasure and makes me happy. And I'm able, to sit. I'm enjoying being outside with my husband and my puppy and just all those things that before it's like I was not doing because or I'd be like this. I was this person. I'd be in here and then like my husband might come to the door and I'm like this, hand, well, yeah, finger in the air, like, wait, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. And now it's just like I've welcomed the season of grace for me and rest for myself.
Yes, yes, yeah. And I think for women, we do better when we do less. Like when we put ourselves first,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
things just fall into place. When we
Yeah.
try to overdo and we try to do everything for everybody else and we put everybody else
Yes.
in front of ourselves, is when our world starts to fall apart. It's not sustainable for women to work like men. And it's really important for us to acknowledge that. And hopefully the corporate world will jump on board with us, maybe eventually. We do so much more when we care for ourselves
Yeah.
first and
Yeah.
foremost. And the world, we're magnetic. This is what women are. Women are magnetic. And so when we give ourselves that grace and that time to go inward, we can bring things to us. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be putting out so much to
Yeah.
get what we want. It's like we can allow things to come to us and we can begin to receive. That's our
Yes.
power. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Now, Leah, what do we do when the past shows up in our bodies? How can we release the past?
Yeah, yeah. So this kind of goes into some of the work I do around trauma, right? And so we've alluded a little bit to it already that trauma shows up in the body. And so, first and foremost, it's being comfortable with being in your body. That's kind of part one, which a lot of women have a difficult time with, especially if there's been some violations. And so that's first and foremost, just learning to be in the body, not all up in the head. So there's a difference when we're thinking a lot and we're putting a lot of action out there into the world. That's very different than dropping into the body and allowing and receiving and being magnetic. And so it's really important, first and foremost, to just drop into the body in that way. So get out of the head and into the body. And then what can come up for us is some of the past experiences that might be affecting our ability to really move forward. So we talked about some of the things that stay lodged within the body, right? Some of the things like the people pleasing, the overachieving, the traumas from our past, all of that can really be lodged within the body. And so there's a lot of different techniques that we can use that I use within my coaching practice. Somatic experiencing and internal family systems are two of the modalities that I like to use to really help move it from the body. But if you're doing some of this work right now for yourself, right, we can just start with the emotions, like dropping into the emotions instead of stuffing them or moving them or repressing them, right? We gotta help get them out of the body. So we find that stillness, we drop into the emotion, and it's hard because emotions are painful, right? I mean, not all of them, obviously, but
Yeah.
the ones that we avoid are painful. So it's about really being with those emotions. And they tell us a lot about who we are. So going back kind of full circle around why we're here on the planet is to know who we are, right? And so they help us know ourselves better. And so being with the emotions, and then we can move them out of the body using different techniques, right? Sometimes just having a good cry. You know, some of us are just so against crying, probably because we've never been taught that it's okay to cry, right? Oftentimes, our parents, oh, don't cry, right? What are you crying about, right? Instead of allowing, so we don't learn how to move emotions out of the body. And anger is another one for women. I actually have I'm not sure when the podcast will be coming out, but I have a Women in Anger free masterclass on August 18th that will go into that emotion, right? Because women oftentimes aren't told that we can be angry, right? All of the cultural conditions around why women shouldn't be angry. Well, it's a natural emotion. And so if we're not angry, we're repressing it. And so it's important to move that up and out of the body. And so I teach in that course what's called the temper tantrum technique that I learned from one of my coaches, Christine Hassler. And it's really about allowing yourself to move that emotion out of the body like a child would when they're having a temper tantrum. So if you notice children who are having a temper tantrum, if you just let them have their tantrum, they get the anger out of their body, you know, like through movements of the arms and the legs. They might be throwing themselves on the ground and, you know, kicking their legs. And you let them do that in a minute or two and they're fine. And so we'll teach in this master class, and I hold space in my one-on-one coaching program for women who need to get rid of some of the anger. And it's just that, you know, I hold a container and a space for them to move that anger through movement of the body, through expression. You know, you can get one of those big pool noodles and start banging the pool noodle on stuff. It's about getting pillows and screaming into a pillow. You know, it's so that's moving emotions out of the body is a really beautiful way to help get some emotions from the past up and out of the body.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Okay. So tell us again, I know you mentioned in your intro a little bit about your coaching program, but can you tell everyone listening or watching a little bit more about the programs you offer?
Yeah. So it's an opportunity for us to go deep. So I like to get to the root cause of the problem, because I really feel like that's how we create transformation, right? Is by going to the root. And so I think through talk therapy, nothing wrong with talk therapy, but it's really important that we go to the body to help get some of the, like I keep talking about, some of the things that are stuck there, right? And so talk therapy is great, nothing wrong with it. And I like to go to the body because that's where we store most things. And so the one-on-one coaching program is really tailored to you. What are you really struggling with in your life now? And what are the ways that we can move them out of the body? And that's going to be dependent on each individual and their past and what they're really struggling with. So it's really a tailored program. I use different modalities, my favorite being somatic experiencing and internal family systems, as well as looking at your beliefs. We look at the cultural conditions, we look at your relationships, we look at your spiritual life, and your physical life, because everything touches everything. So it's really a holistic program as well.
Awesome. I love that. And where can the audience find you online and connect to you?
Yeah, beautiful. Instagram, I love getting Instagram DMs, and my Instagram is Leah McQuade1. You can also find me on Facebook, Leah.McQuade1 on Facebook. Um, my website is leahmcquade.com. So it's LeahMcQuade.com. And you can book a free session with me. So if something really resonated with you and you're not quite sure, something's activated within you, you're noticing like, oh, okay, maybe this is right for me, but you're not sure. I really encourage your listeners to book a free call. You'll get some clarity on the call, right? That's one thing that I promise. You'll get some free coaching and clarity on whether this is the program for you or not. And yeah, so those are the main ways. And like I said, you can join the Women in Anger, Transforming Your Anger into Power and Purpose, which is August 19th, if this comes out in time. You can go to my bio on my Instagram to register for that.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, and you can also grab all the links Leah mentioned in our show notes as well. So, all right, now we got 2 more segments. Up next is 3 Things with Leah. I'm going to ask you 3 questions that just help our audience get to know you a little bit better. So the first question is, it's a 2-parter. How do you start and end the day?
Oh, lovely. Yes. I start every single day with meditation. And I've kind of gone away from the term meditation a little bit. I call it more of a stillness practice, because sometimes I don't always drop into a silent meditation. Sometimes it might be a walking meditation, or sometimes it might be a journaling session, but I give myself minimum 30 minutes, and sometimes it's even up to an hour, sometimes longer if I need that. I really listen in the morning to what I need, and I give myself that. But most of the time now it's dropping in and doing some mantras, and just having that silence for myself. And if there's anything that pops up that I need to process, I process that during this time as well. And I end my day, I would like to say I end my day the way that I started. I keep wanting to do that, but I'm being honest with myself. I'm tired at the end of the day. And I typically will end my day sitting in my big beanbag chair with my husband next to me and watching one of our shows, to be honest.
Hey, I like it. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Okay. Number 2, if you are someone who either sets goals or intentions for yourself, what's one thing you set for yourself this year?
Yeah, to make the biggest impact that I can and really start moving my business in a direction that impacts as many people as possible. And so I can be of service to the world doing what I love.
Awesome. Love that. And last, what do you do when you have a day off?
Yeah, the rest of the day is pretty much a day off. So my husband and I are going to go to the local coffee shop. I'm going to drink some matcha. I'm a big matcha fan, actually
Nice.
snob. I'm a matcha snob, so it's got to be ceremonial grade, no sugar, none of that stuff. It's like, just the good earthy stuff. So yeah, and reading. I'm a voracious reader. I've already woken up this morning and gotten to some reading, nonfiction. I try to read the fictional stuff, and my mind wants to just learn so much. I go typically nonfiction. And I planted a garden for the first time this year. So that's been fun. I'll probably spend a little time in my little garden, and anything outdoors, hiking, biking, just sitting in the sun. Of course, it's a little hot these days, but I'm a sun worshiper. I love just looking at the sun. So really anything. I love sitting outside my live oak tree. Like I've got this live oak tree that's beautiful in my yard. And I like to just take my yoga mat out there and sit under the tree. Oh, and yoga, of course.
Of course.
Lots of things. There's lots of things that keep me entertained. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, before I let you go, would you please leave the audience with the top, 1 to 3 things that you think they should take away from our conversation today?
Yeah. First and foremost, go inward. go in and don't be afraid of what you might find, and know that there's support out there if you're like, oh, I need some help with these things. That would be first and foremost. Two is remember that your feminine values are important. And in fact, it's the feminine values that are going to change the world. So it's the like we've talked about, the nurturing, the trust, the collaboration, the intuition, right? It's those kind of typical feminine values that are going to really, I think, change the world. So when women tap into our power and live from that place, we're going to change the world. So know that you're powerful in all of your feminine ways. And three, I would say seasons. Yeah. Do the work. And know that you have like every opportunity in your life to play, right? Like do the work, yes. And remember, you don't have to stay in that place of work always. Life is fun and life can be fun. And the more you do the work, there's more opportunities to see the joy and the light in life.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for joining me today. This has been a very enlightening conversation. Lots of nuggets, as I like to say. So much, I think, that could help so many people listening or watching. So as always, you can always come back when you want to share more info with our audience. So I wish you all the success in your business and in life.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyra. I appreciate it. It's been delightful.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you again, Leah, for joining the show today and for that very enlightening discussion. If you'd like to learn more about Leah, please check out her website at leahmcquade.com. You can grab all the links, plus the website link Leah mentioned in the show notes as well. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, visit us at glowupgirl.com. You can check out past podcast episodes. You can check out some tools and resources. Also, you can sign up to be a guest on the show, grab our social links, and so much more. Thanks to all of you for taking time out of your schedule to join me today, and I'll see you next week. Until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.